before Obi, our former president, Muhammadu Buhari, when he was General Muhammadu Buhari, actually proved that point with this political party, the CPC, that came into existence less than 6 months to the 2009 presidential election. And he came close to winning that election on the strength of his character and the belief around his character. As at that time, people generally believed that he was a man of integrity, ramrod straight, a man of impeccable, unimpeachable character, a man who was disciplined enough to also tame the rising tide of security then. So using the platform of CPC, a party that didn't have structures too, he garnered 12.5 million votes. So it tells you that that is possible. And by 2023, something phenomenal also happened in the political space, when Peter Obi, similarly, riding on the platform of Labour Party, a hitherto obscure, unknown political party, and he rose to national prominence. Peter Obi garnered over 6 million votes on record and was able to win 12 states, 11 plus the FCT, 12 states, alongside the candidates of the ruling party, Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the APC, and Atiku Abubakar of the main opposition party. They all won 12 states apiece. And Obi won Lagos State, where the president comes from. He won the FCT, where the president resides, President Muhammadu Buhari. He won the state of the national chairman of the APC in Nasarawa. He won the state of the running mate of the PDP candidate, Mr. Okowa of the Delta State. He caused such levels of disruption that I'm sure he's encouraged along that path, because I think he still remains largely popular. People still feel that part of the reasons they voted for him are still very valid, given what we've seen in the last 2 years. And so for him to want to launch an online registration to really determine the strength of the number of the obedient movement, I think it's a good one, and it's something that can come in for him as a plus going into the 2027 election. And so as it stands today, Nigerians are not galvanizing around any political party. Maybe some individuals may be, inspiring followership, but around the political party structure, which is supposed to be the brain box of our democracy and the major driver of the democratic process, there seems to be little or no choice, and that is because the political party system in Nigeria is the weakest link in our democratic value chain. If I let me put it straight, the day El-Rufai decides and is able to galvanize the opinion molders in the north to zero down on a P2B, for instance, as the candidate, that will be the end of the Tinubu administration.
All right. On this planned coalition, and we have heard the response from the PDP Governors Forum about this coalition. They don't want it. They say, look, come and join us. We are not joining you to win. Come and join the PDP.
That's because the PDP governors, their preferred candidate for the next election is President Bola Tinubu of the APC, because of Southern solidarity. The bulk of the governors in the PDP are from the South. One of their own is in power. They can't work against one of their own. It's not possible. In 2003, AD didn't feel the presidential candidate because of Obasanjo. That is the nature of Nigerian politics. When Adu also became president in 2007, a number of AMPP governors then moved into the PDP. So married his daughters. Two governors actually married his daughters to have a good footing in the PDP. It has always been like that. Now, talking about the coalition, it is still too early to predict what the outcome of that coalition will be. But I can give them some tips. Okay. You see, El-Rufai has a grouse against the president, a legitimate grouse, because he worked for the president. Hate him or love him, he has a basis to be angry. And he has been working assiduously to undermine the president, particularly in the Muslim north, where he's like the Khalifa to Buhari. He's like the brain box of the Muslim north. But let me give him a tip. If he really wants to see the back of the president, let me tell you for what he will do. And I think they may be on the path to really achieving that. Let El-Rufai convince the Muslim north. If he's able to do that, I know he can, he has the capacity, to look towards the south for a candidate to support, specifically the southeast. If I let me put it straight, the day El-Rufai decides and is able to galvanize the opinion molders in the north to zero down on a P2B, for instance, as the candidate, that will be the end of the Tinubu administration. The PDP is right now on the throes of death because it committed a mortal sin in 2023. And that sin was not zoning its presidential candidacy to the south. I had warned that the wind of presidency in 2023 was blowing south. And if the PDP feeds a northern candidate, it means you to be sailing against the wind. And if you do that, you are likely to risk your boat capsizing and sinking into oblivion. And that seems to be what's happening in PDP. The gale of defecation you are saying is just a symptom of a deeper ailment. You see, when the PDP violated the zoning arrangement, it created a problem for the PDP because the PDP's strongest support base, the most consistent support base for the PDP has been the southern half of Nigeria. The southeast, the south-south, and of course, the areas in the north you call the middle belt. They've been the most consistent support base of the PDP. And so when this group came out to say, look, we want the presidency in 2023, and the APC too bowed to that pressure. You could see the concerted effort within the APC to shift power to the south. It reflected in the primary election, where the winner, the first runner-ups, and the second runner-up all came from the southern half of the country. So it showed you the effort that was also put in that party. But the PDP said it wanted to win an election. It wanted to take advantage of the electoral fortune of the North, which happens to be the largest voting demography in Nigeria. And we had wanted to say, look, PDP's priority for 2023 shouldn't be winning an election, but simply consolidating into the post-Buhari era. Because Buhari, as the sitting president, will work for his party to win one way or the other.
So
when PDP violated that zoning formula,
yes,
it betrayed its most consistent support base, which is the South.
Safabi
and with the emergence of a Southern president in the person of Bola Tinubu, what you see happening now was what happened in 2003, when the southern part of the country is now coalescing around one of their own. And you know why this is important for us to understand? The 8-year rule of President Muhammadu Buhari was the most divisive in the history of Nigeria, the most sectional. Buhari instituted Arewa privilege in Nigeria that needed to be checked by power shift to the south. This was where the PDP didn't quite get it right. It was like a matter of do or die affair. Such levels of sectionalism has never seen before. He instituted Arewa privilege, and Nigeria was already on the road to Sudan, and understood that the last-ditch effort that could save this country was going to be a power shift to the south. If you recall, sir, it was at the Asaba Declaration where the southern governors met for the first time in more than a decade to take a decisive decision on the issues of open grazing and herdsmen crisis that was ravaging across the country. That point also was added to the resolution that power should shift to the south by 2023, meaning there was a connection between Buhari's mismanagement of our diversity, our national security, on the basis of ethno-regional sentiments and favoritism, and a desire for power shift to the south. And that was why the younger elements of the APC from the north clearly saw that for the south to have come together, the southeast, the south-south, and the southwest, at a time that the separatist agitation was raging so much in the southeast that it had a landfall even in the southwest. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, we had a serious secessionist movement in the southwest that was championed by Sunday Igboho, arising from the same herdsmen crisis. So there was a link between national security, diversity mismanagement, and the need to salvage whatever was left of national unity of the Nigerian state for power to shift to the south. And that was why younger elements in the APC, the likes of Governor El-Rufai, the likes of Kashim Shettima, the likes of Masari and others, knew that the North, as at that time, was not ready to be divorced from his southern spouse that was a lady of means. And so they knew that it was important to save what was left of the Nigerian national unity to shift power to the south. And that's why they made the effort within their own party to make that effort. Now the PDP, whose support base, interestingly, is in the south, failed to read the tea leaves properly and opted to take advantage of the northern demography and feed the northern candidates, which was opportunistic at the time. So I had also predicted that the PDP would lose in the north and lose in the south to the north preferred candidate from the south, who happened to be Bola Tinubu. My brother here talked about P2B's foray into the election and how it also helped the emergence of President Bola Tinubu. Yes, that was part of the southern agenda for power, which was legitimate because the presidency of Nigeria has rotated between north and south historically for as long as I can remember. Even during the military era, there's always a balancing act because of the national unity that we all, work for since the end of the Civil War. But unfortunately, Atiku Abubakar came into the race. And there's a background to this, and I must establish the background. For me, Atiku's ambition actually killed the PDP. And Wike's anger, Wike's frustration is conducting the final rite of passage for the PDP. Well, you know, because the bigger problem for the PDP is not even the defecting governors. More governors will defect. The APC will overrun the southern half of Nigeria. You can see that in Anambra, for instance, the PDP didn't even have a contest for its ticket. The biggest challenge for the PDP is not even the defection of governors. Let me tell you the biggest challenge, and I must say it because my brother is here. He's a member of the PDP. The PDP violation of zoning created a problem, a Wike problem. And Wike is still a member of the PDP. So what PDP should worry most about is Wike still remaining in that party. You see, there's a problem going on in the party now about the national secretary of the party. You know what that will result into? There might be a prolonged legal conundrum that might see the PDP not having a candidate or candidates across the board for the next election. Or at best, having a very weak presidential candidate that cannot even raise a hat, where Bola Tinubu of the APC is. Well, that is the real debt for the PDP. Since 1999, the zoning formula has been largely complied with. So between 1999 and 2007, you had a southern president. And when the president himself was leaving, Olusegun Obasanjo, he worked for a transfer of power to the north. And Umar Musa Yar'Adua emerged. And by 2010, unfortunately, we lost our president, may God rest his soul, and his deputy then, Goodluck Jonathan, assumed the mantle of leadership of Nigeria. And this is where I also must draw attention to how the PDP has severely and severally violated the zoning formula. Let me state it on record today too, that it was my opinion even then that President Goodluck Jonathan shouldn't have run in the 2011 election, because it was still the turn of the north. And there was such a commitment to that zoning that the then party chairman, Vincent Obulafo, who was from the southeast, made an open declaration that no southerner should vie in the 2011 election because it was still the turn of the north. And guess what? The major beneficiary and the champion of the detention of zoning in 2011 was Atiku Abubakar, who ran against Jonathan. And that was the first time the PDP experienced a crack that would eventually lead to his defeat in 2015. People didn't pay attention. When Atiku ran against Jonathan, even though he lost, something phenomenal happened in that popular election that has not happened in Nigeria before. When an incumbent president will run against a challenger and lose a number of states, Atiku won 5 states from the north: Bauchi, Kano, Niger, Sokoto, and Zamfara in that primary election. It was a statement of the anger, the frustration in the north against Jonathan's violation of the zoning formula in 2011. And when they couldn't get a ticket in PDP, the CPC was put together hurriedly, and the Muhammadu Buhari ran on the platform of CPC and garnered 12.5 million votes. And by 2015, southern elements came together to say, yes, indeed, it's a return of the north. Again, to preserve our national unity, the Tinubus of this world, the Ametis of this world, and others came together and supported Buhari to become president, who was the choice of the north. In 2023, faithfully, the northerners that benefited from that benevolence of their southern compatriots decided to repay, and that's why Tinubu emerged first at the powers of the APC and became president today. But the PDP again, like he did in 2011 and 2015, decided to repeat the same mistake in 2023, when the same Atiku, who had protested against the violation of zoning by Goodluck Jonathan in 2011 and 2015, when he led 5 governors out of the PDP into the APC, decided to violate the zoning himself. So for me, he's the cause of this problem. And let me put it in context. In 2019, the PDP decided that the reasons they lost the 2015 election was because they violated zoning. And so they set up a committee that was chaired by Ekwerebadu, the former Deputy Senate President. And they reached an agreement that 2019 election should be an all-northern affair. And that was why no southern appeal the presidential form in the PDP to contest the 2019 presidential election. And so somebody like Wike supported Tambua with all his might, while Peter Obi and his Southeast people supported Atiku to emerge. And that election, Atiku gave a very good performance. In fact, a lot of people still believe that Atiku won the election, but was rigged out. He came close. That was the kind of performance he put up. I had expected by 2023, Atiku Abubakar would have supported the Southerner, like a P2B, who supported him in the previous election, while Tambuwal should have supported Wike. And let us see will emerge from the South among these two. But unfortunately, Atiku came into the ring to struggle with Peter Obi, Wike and co. And Tambuwal ended up, you see, Tambuwal is a northerner, a Hausa-speaking northerner and a Muslim from the same north that Atiku, stepped down for Atiku against Wike, the lone southerner in the race. If you were Wike, would you not feel betrayed after the support you gave to both of these candidates in 2019? PDP governors, their preferred candidate for the next election is President Bola Tinubu of the APC because of Southern solidarity. The bulk of the governors in the PDP are from the South. One of their own is in power. They can work against one of their own. It's not possible. In 2003, AD didn't feel the presidential candidate because of Obasanjo. That is the nature of Nigerian politics. When Adu also became president in 2007, a number of AMPP governors then moved into the PDP. So married his daughters. Two governors actually married his daughters to have a good footing in the PDP. It has always been like that. Now, talking about the coalition, it is still too early to predict what the outcome of that coalition will be. But I can give them some tips.
Okay.
You see, El-Rufai has a grouse against the president, a legitimate grouse, because he worked for the president. Hate him or love him, he has something, he has a basis to be angry. And he has been working assiduously to undermine the president, particularly in the Muslim North, where he's like the Khalifa to Buhari, he's like the brain box of the Muslim North. But let me give him a tip. If he really wants to see the back of the president, let me tell you for what he will do. And I think they may be on the path to really achieving that. Let El-Rufai convince the Muslim North. If he's able to do that, I know he can, he has the capacity, to look towards the South for a candidate to support, specifically the Southeast. If I let me put it straight, the day El-Rufai decides and is able to galvanize the opinion molders in the North to zero down on a P2B, for instance, as the candidate, that will be the end of the Tinubu administration.
There are 10 lessons that Peter Obi, obedient, and Nigerians must learn from the Edo election 2024, the Edo governorship elections. 10 lessons. Once we learn these lessons and we apply these 10 lessons, nobody can rig any elections in Nigeria anymore. 10 lessons. First of all, I need to say this. For those of you who keep pushing this narrative that Peter Tinubu knows how to rig election very well and that he will rig his way again in 2027 and people should not bother, I think you should stop it. And I will tell you why you should stop it. This was how we were driving the narrative, or people were pushing the narrative in 2015, that PDP knows how to rig elections very, very well, and that people shouldn't bother. In fact, when the coalition, the APC coalition was forming, the PDP were proud and they were arrogant and in saying that, oh, they will be in power for 50 years. So, those of you pushing that narrative now that Tinubu knows how to rig, remember this. What happened in 2015 can always happen again if the people get their act together. And these 10 lessons from the Edo elections will guarantee that what happened in 2015 will happen in 2027. What are the big lessons? Number one, Labour Party, Abundance Party of Nigeria, or any other party for that matter, apart from the APC, must recognize that they must be ready to do live transmission of their polling unit results. Live transmission. It is a big must. The Electoral Act 2022 forbids any other person apart from INEC from declaring winner. But it does not stop political party from announcing their own result. So, it is a check on INEC so far as they do it and base it on their own polling unit results. So live transmission is a must. Even if INEC does not do it, even if the Electoral Act 2022 is tinkered and reformed to include mandatory transmission, political parties must still do their own live transmission. In fact, a second thing they must do, which is the number 9 lesson, is that they must do live collation. As the results are coming from the polling units to the collation center, it must also go to the political party collation agent or the agent at the collation centers from the ward, local government, state up to the national. There must be live one. So we'll be seeing it in real time. At number 8 is we must have a solid situation room from the local government, from the national to the state to the local government and even to the ward. We must have very, very solid situation room. And then we must make sure we put countermeasures in place. Countermeasure against violence, election violence at the polling unit, at the collation center. We must put measures in place. There are things that we can do as a political party or as citizens or as a movement to put INEC in check, to put security agencies in check, even to put the judiciary in check. We must do those things. Number 6, we must have a new political party. In fact, I don't know about the reforms in the Labour Party right now. Hopefully, the caretaker committee will be able to do something. But anything short of constitutionally guaranteed free nomination form for any office, anything short of that, the Labour Party is not viable. Anything short of that, in addition to other core ideologies that must be institutionalized in terms of constitution of the party. But in addition to that, there must be a backup political party. Peter Obi can do his thing in Labour Party if it works out, but we as Nigerians must have a new political party because Peter Obi cannot do it alone. We need people who believe in some ideologies, people to come out that can run without having big money. We need that new political party. And the best option is to align with the Abundance Party of Nigeria. We need very fantastic election management software at number 5. And there must be training and testing for polling unit agents. And in addition to polling unit agents, we must introduce what I call lookouts. If you like, you can call them spies. We introduce them. So once we have a network of all these polling unit agents and lookouts or spies, together with the countermeasures that we put in place, with proper training, ahead of time, I'm telling you, we will check the activities of INEC, security agencies, thugs, judiciary, all of them. We will check them. Election management software, we need it. We must start now. And then number 4, structure. Tinubu is nothing without structure. Wike is nothing without structure. What we saw play out in Edo State was a structure of criminality, structure of corruption, both on the side of PDP and the side of APC. They are not so different. It's just that the PDP that taught APC how to rig, the APC now mastered the rigging more than the PDP. But we must now have our own structure, solid structure. What is the update on the obedient structure? We must not say things with mouth and tell us we are working behind the scene. It is not so hard to structure the obedient movement. It's not so hard. Tanko, Yunusa, what is the update on it? We must start now. We need a solid structure. Everybody must know everybody across the polling units, across the wards, across the local governments, across the states. We must be connected, and all of the other things I mentioned, we must begin to do them now. Solid structure. Number 3, we must understand that voter apathy is the basic foundation for rigging elections. Whether you want to do vote buying, whether you want to threaten people at polling unit, you want to do ballot box snatching or ballot paper burning. All of those things, they are made easy when there's voter apathy. So we must put plans in motion, set structures in place to combat voter apathy. Somebody said you cannot educate the hungry. So what do we do? What are the solutions that are available to us? There are solutions. We'll talk about them. But we must understand that voter apathy is a fundamental thing that we must deal with in order to defeat the structure of criminality, to defeat the structure of corruption, to defeat Tinubu and anybody. We can do it in 2027. Number two, we must overcome this assumption that hunger and poverty will make people to vote out a corrupt APC or a corrupt PDP. Hunger and poverty is definitely not enough. People will sell their vote out of hunger. In fact, they won't understand that it is the people that are buying their votes that are responsible for their predicament. They won't. So we need to address this issue. We need to put countermeasure in place to stop vote buying from vote selling, We need to do it. And then the number one lesson that we must learn from the Edo elections 2024 is the fact that popularity is not enough to win elections in Nigeria. Olumide Akpata was very popular. Very, very popular. In fact, the insertion of Peter Obi into the mix, his visit to Edo State, was very, very constructive and productive. By the end of the day, what did we find? You need all the other 9 lessons, all the other 9 things or strategies in place. You need very good, automatic, our result collation should be 10 times faster than that of INEC. If we are going to be able to put INEC in check, it must be 10 times faster. If INEC is doing their own electronic transmission and collation, our own should have happened 10 times faster, so that when INEC is doing their own, we will have all our countermeasures in place. We'll have our results at the ward level, local government, state level, national level, to counter whatever results they bring. And then we must have our countermeasures in place, whether in terms of the cameras, spy cameras, and all that. All of those structures, we must have them in place. We can checkmate them. I am confident of it. It may be a lot of work, but it is not an impossible thing to do. We can checkmate them. Popularity is not enough. Which one did I leave out? What is your contributions? Let us not just sit down and say Tinubu cannot be defeated in 2027. He can be defeated. But we must learn these 10 lessons that I just walked us through, and we must take the countermeasures that I suggested. What are your own suggestions? Let us know. We must work together, and we must start now.